I think we shall get started. So nice to seeing so many of you here, and also seeing that you're coming from a lot of different places around the world. I am Jennifer Vendelius, and I work with communications for the DUT Partnership, and I will be moderating this info session about the DUT Call today. And I have some colleagues with me today that are experts in the call process and the different thematic areas that you will hear shortly. Just an important message before we begin the meeting today. We will have plenty of time towards the end of the meeting for a Q&A session. Here it's very important that you use the Q&A tool and not the chat to write your questions. Use the chat if you have any technical questions or something that's related to the Zoom meeting. Otherwise, use the Q&A function. If this doesn't appear in your Zoom bar, you can just press the More button and you can find it there. Also, we ask that you do not use any AI transcription tools of your own. We've had some difficulties lately with this interfering with the recording of the meeting. But we will provide both the meeting recording and also a summary of the questions and answers from this meeting, so that you will have a summary of that. And as for the agenda for today, I will start just briefly introducing the DUT partnership, and then we will go into all the details about the DUT Call 2024. This is mostly transnational information of different kinds. We will then have a short break before we go back and have a Q&A session. And then between 12 to 1, we have representative of most of our participating countries here for breakout sessions where you have the opportunity to ask any questions related to the national or regional requirements in your country. But let's start with the DUT partnership. Some of you may already know what this is, but just a brief introduction that DUT is an intergovernmental research and innovation program that addresses key challenges of urban transitions. And our ambition is to shape and facilitate an innovation ecosystem for different urban actors to both engage and benefit from. And we currently have over 65 partners from 28 countries. And these are both national and regional research and investment funders, but also other organizations dealing with urban policy or research performing organization. We launch annual calls to fund research and investment projects and have a budget of over 450 million for up to 2028. And if we look specifically at the DUT Call 2024, we have a budget of approximately 54 million euros. And then the EC will, in addition to this, support the call with a co-fund of up to 30%. And here you can also see our main 3 themes, or as we call it, the transition pathways: circular urban economies, the 50-minute city, and positive energy districts. And the DUT program then, it's not only about calls, even though that is the core of what we do. Through our calls, we aim to fund over 40 research and innovation projects each year. In our first call, the DUT Call 2022, we funded 48 projects, and now for last year's call, we have 42 projects suggested for funding. But rather than focusing on individual projects and solutions, we aim to create this transformative program that encompasses both solutions, insights, and knowledge, which can be both used and adopted by cities throughout Europe and beyond. And in addition to the calls, we also provide many other opportunities for both science, policy, business, and society to interact, collaborate, and build capacities around. And in the image here, you see some examples of are formats to engage in. I will not go through all of these in detail right now, but for example, we have our city panel, which is a network for cities where they can meet, exchange good practices, and also have a say on DUT strategic priorities. And this network meets twice a year and have their next meeting scheduled exactly in a month, 10th of October. So if you want to learn more about the city panel or any other DUT activities, you can learn how to get involved on our website. So please check that out. If you want to read some more about the DUT program, you can also scan the QR code on the slide. But now moving into why we are all here, the DUT Call 2024. As I mentioned, we have the three main pathways, transition pathways, and the first is circular urban economies. For this year's call, you can see the topics here. First one being creating a new paradigm for urban water cycles. We have circular models for regenerating, repurposing, protecting and conserving urban space for biodiversity, and multi-city strategies for circular urban economy, monitoring and management. If you want to read more about each call topic, they are available both on the website and in the call text. But I will move to the next one now, and we'll dig into them a little bit deeper also with our transition pathway coordinators soon. 50-minute city, we also have three topics: advancing urban mobility, innovations for inclusive and youth-centric mobility systems. And topic 2, reconsidering urban mobility systems towards system innovation and proximity policies for sustainable city regions. And topic number 3, evidence for the urban mobility transition, data and indicators for effective decision-making. And our final transition pathway, the positive NED districts. The call topics are local PEDs in a multi-level perspective, towards the climate neutral city, PEDs, system integration, and urban strategies. And the final topic, managing the urban energy transition, data management and decision support systems. Yeah, that's all of them. And I would now like to invite our transition pathway coordinators in to ask you a few questions about the call topics. And I'm wondering, we have a little bit of different topics every year. Ann, can you please maybe start introducing yourself and tell me how you arrived at this year's call topics?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. My name is Anne Maudsley, and I work for the Swedish Research Council for Sustainable Development, FORMOS, and I am one of the transition pathway coordinators for the Circular Urban Economies Transition Pathway within DUT. And how we arrived at this year's call topics were, firstly, we have a DUT roadmap and a multi-annual call agenda within this document. And these are the starting point to guide the implementation of joint annual calls and strategic measures, including call topics. To derive specifically at this year's call topics, using the roadmap as our base, we embarked on a year-long process starting in September last year, consulting with thematic steering groups, funding agencies, financing DUT, other relevant European programs, and the wider DUT stakeholder community, who provided input and feedback on call priorities, which inspired and developed into this year's call topics. This consultation occurred through our DUT Agora dialogues, an online survey, and other formats, and we welcomed input from stakeholders from across public authorities, civil society, research, innovation, business, industry, as well as the cultural and creative sectors. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Anne. And I mean, we have 9 different topics into 3 themes. We can't go through all of it now, but is there something that you would like to take the chance to highlight about this year's call topic specifically? Maybe you can start with a 50-minute city, Maxi, and also just tell people who you are.
Yeah, good morning. Also from Vienna, Maximilian Jäger is my name, and I coordinate the 50-minute city pathway. In this pathway, we focus on topics around the urban mobility transition and take the 50-minute city concept as a kind of a narrative for this mosaic of different approaches, policies, and instruments that help us in implementing sustainable and inclusive mobility in our cities. Something maybe to say already on this call is that in the two first calls, we focused on more bigger challenges in a rather open-ended way. That was, for example, about sustainable mobility in suburbs or kind of lower density neighborhoods, involvement of citizens or policies to lower car dependency. But this year, kind of, we selected to go for something more specific, where we want to tackle kind of specific and important aspects of the mobility transition. In the first topic, I would like to highlight that it is kind of all about target groups that we usually not target directly in mobility measures. It's about youth, young people, children, about how to shape sustainable transport habits from an early age, how to involve their voices and bring education institutions in project on board. We also have kind of the issue of social justice in mobility policy there, and kind of taking it up from an intersectional angle and looking at potential effects, perhaps negative effects of the 50-minute city concept. The second topic is kind of more this bigger part where we try to understand the city as a system, see what we can learn from there, and apply frameworks for system innovation to mobility policies. It's about looking from kind of having the perspective from the neighborhood level to the bigger city and even metropolitan area, how the 50-minute city concept and similar policies can align there. And also about looking at the connections towards different sectors, from mobility to logistics, delivery, energy, urban greening, and much more. And the third and final topic for this year, I would like to highlight that it's kind of, we talk so much about data and evidence in decision making, but here it's really about trying to identify existing data gaps and work with cities together in how to close that, build capacities and skills in city administrations, and also look a bit towards scope 3 mobility emissions, how we can tackle that, how we can take it up, and what are the next steps in there. So it's a little bit of small perspective from my side on these topics, and I'm looking forward to any questions that you have on that in the Q&A tool.
Thank you, Maxi, for this introduction. Christoph, maybe you can continue with the positive energy district topics.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Christoph Gollner. I'm working with FFG in Vienna also, and I'm coordinating the transition pathway on positive energy districts. Positive energy districts, the whole focus has been here already since a few years. There have been already 4 calls on this topic from our side, 2 JP Urban Europe calls, 2 DUT calls so far. So a lot to build on. Positive energy districts are basically a tool to support the urban energy transition, the pathway towards climate neutrality, but also in general, increasing the resilience of the energy system. It's a very local very local approach, integrating local communities into the process and kind of shaping a broader basis for the energy system. However, building on the topics that we have had already in our calls, the need we identified is that we need to have a stronger look at the systemic perspective, going beyond the individual solutions in specific areas of the cities, although they always serve as a starting point. But this call specifically focuses with its topics on the rather systemic perspective. Topic 1 goes into the question of how to shape a multi-level structure for developing positive energy districts, meaning from the local area, from the local level, the regional level, the national level, even maybe beyond the national level, how to shape strategies and approaches that have a widespread impact, because the idea is really to go to shape a system that allows for these local solutions integrated in a wider energy system. And topic 1 goes very much into that, while topic 2 has the city level in focus, with a similar question. How do we organize the energy policies connected with urban planning, with different positive local solutions, positive energy districts or similar solutions, together with systemic approaches, top-down approaches, heating and cooling, system integration, additional urban strategies, or linking also to mobility or circularity. How can we develop a strategy, citywide strategy that supports, in a broad sense, the pathway towards climate neutrality? The third topic is on how do we manage that in terms of data, in terms of indicators, what are solutions for data management, data collection first, data management, and how do they support decision-making in the urban system? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. And Anne, what about the circular urban economy topics?
Yes, thanks, Jennifer. With the circular urban economies transition pathway topics this year, circularity in the built environment and regenerative urbanism continue to be at the core of the call topics for circular urban economies this year. Flow of resources, including water, played an important role in the call topics in previous years and specifically last year. And this year, urban water cycles becomes the focus of a whole call topic on its own. Likewise, urban biodiversity was addressed as part of a topic on planning and designing urban areas with nature and moving towards regenerative urbanism in last year's call. And this year's specific attention is paid to regenerating, repurposing, protecting and conserving urban space, just particularly for biodiversity. Similarly to the use of data for tracing and analysing material flows held a crucial place in a call topic on the built environment as a resource base last year. And this year, the topic on multi-city strategies for circular urban economy monitoring and management places an even greater priority on strategies for circularity through localised monitoring and data collection efforts. Justice is a core consideration in the circular urban economies transition pathway call topics this year, including obligations and rights, and distributions and balances of advantages and disadvantages, and how these can be incorporated into urban biodiversity initiatives. Again, in 2024 too, the circular urban economies transition pathway call topics, there is also a focus on the role of planning and architecture and design in the built environment, specifically here in ensuring the protection and enhancement of urban landscapes. In the focus for this year's topics, we wanted to build upon previous DUT Q call topics and emphasize specific focus on creating a new paradigm for urban water cycles, urban biodiversity, and circular models for regeneration, repurposing, protection, and conservation within urban space, as well as multi-city strategies for circular urban economies, monitoring and management that were lifted by the DUT stakeholder community in our call scoping process as core priorities in the attempt to drive urban transitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Before we head on to the next question, just a reminder, if you have any questions about the call topics, we do have some time allocated already now or in a few minutes. So please use the Q&A function to write your questions, and the transition pathways coordinators will write answers there or bring them up aloud if necessary. I've already seen that some of you have started writing your questions, so that's great. But before we start answering them, I would like to know from you, Christoph, we've seen a little bit of mentioning of data I'm wondering, are there any cross-cutting topics here in the TPs?
That's a great observation. Yes, we tried to set that up. I mean, maybe first of all, a general statement. We highly encourage combining topics. So you have to, according to your national conditions, you have the opportunity, and it's as I said, highly encouraged to combine topics. So you have to choose one main topic, but it's also good to combine across the different pathways. In particular, for this call, we decided to have a cross-cutting aspect, and that is exactly on data management, decision-making, tools or strategies in all three transition pathways. So and topic 3 in circular urban economies, in the 15-minute city, and the PET transition pathways address this question, and particularly for this topic, we would really like to see combined approaches here. So data management, not solely for energy purposes, but rather combine this question and develop strategies that have a systemic and comprehensive approach towards how to deal with data and how to develop decision-making tools. So yes, anyone who is interested in this topic we would be very happy to see combined approaches there.
Thank you, Christoph. I have one more question before I open up questions to the audience. If you are applying for funding to be a DUT project, what can you expect from being a part of the DUT partnership? Maxi, maybe you can answer this one.
Yeah, surely. Well, I believe that DUT is a program that differs a little bit from other R&I funding programs, as obviously kind of we provide hopefully funding opportunities that are supportive to you, but we also strive to create a community through the works of the transition pathway, and we try to bring the projects together and connect the results, kind of to create an overarching portfolio of learnings, case studies, and instruments for the urban transitions. So on the one hand, there are some obligatory meetings that involve a kickoff meeting in the beginning, midterm meeting in the middle, and final meeting for the projects, where all the projects come together, have the opportunity to exchange, learn from each other. And there's also the obligatory contribution to send one expert of the project to the Knowledge Hub, which basically is the platform to bring all of the learnings of the projects together and create this portfolio that can then be communicated, and where cities and other institutions can have a look at this and take up the things that help the most. But additionally to these obligatory meetings, we also have a few offers to informally exchange and kind of keep on building this community of practice, which, for example, involves meetings with other funded projects, but also our wider community. When we look at exchanging with the other projects, we have some opportunities where projects can get in touch with each other, can network over LinkedIn groups, but can also discuss specific issues in thematic deep dive discussions. But then we also have other engagement formats that involve a wider DUT community that every project can visit and make use of, that ranges from so-called Agora dialogues, which are basically discussion rounds on specific topics where different stakeholders from different sectors come together. We have urban lunch talks, which is kind of quicker, informative discussions on a specific issue. And then we also kind of would like to have the opportunity to involve you as projects in inputs for workshops and conferences. So there's kind of a whole range of opportunities and possibilities to not only be your isolated project and work within that, but also exchange and engage with the wider DUT community.
Thank you, Maxi. That sounds very promising for the projects. For all of you that just entered the meeting, we apologize for these technical issues. So far, we have gone through the call topics, and these are also available on our website and in the call text, so you can dive into them a little bit more deeply there. But now let's open up for some questions to the transition pathway coordinators. Please mainly write your questions in the Q&A function. And as mentioned before, this can be found in the bar under More if it's not already there. Our transition pathway coordinators will take the time to answer this continuously through the meeting, and we will also summarize all the questions and answers in a document after this meeting as well, so that they will be available for everyone. To the coordinators, is there anything that you've seen already in terms of questions that you would like to answer directly aloud, or is it more suitable to answer in writing for you?
If I may, just one question that I just see: do you expect city authorities to lead the call on positive energy districts? I think that is also a general question that would also apply to the other transition pathways. We're not expecting the city to lead. Of course, we want to have a city. We want to have urban authorities kind of in a very prominent role in the projects and have them actively engaged. But it's not like we're expecting to lead urban authorities in the projects. But however, it kind of giving the urban authorities a strong role in the projects is highly encouraged.
Thanks, Christoph. Maxi?
Yeah, there's one question that I think would be worth taking up now. There's one question on the, it says, for the 50-minute city pathway, particularly under topics 2 and 3, how much emphasis is placed on piloting solutions versus pure research or experimentation? So as for each topic, it's always open for both ways. Kind of we have the more innovation-oriented research, but also the main basic kind of more research-oriented focus that can be selected. So for every topic, both is possible. However, we also see that the innovation-oriented projects have been a little bit underrepresented in the last years. So we also want to kind of create a little bit of more emphasis on that. But as said, both approaches are highly welcome as long as the proposal is interesting and new and fresh and leads to some good outcomes.
Thank you, Maxi. Anne, you have your hand raised.
Yes, just another question that also will be addressed later on that has come up, and also is maybe a question specifically for the funding agency breakout session, is around how applications can be dealt with if there is no submission of pre-proposals at a national level. And yes, this is, we can just say that this is going to be addressed later in the presentations.
Yes, and as mentioned before, we also have a longer Q&A session allocated towards the end of the meeting, where you can ask further questions. If you're looking into the Q&A section and you see a question that you are also wondering, you can also upvote this question by liking it. All right. Is there anything else that you've picked on now? Otherwise, you can take some time to answer them in writing. We will also come back to these questions then later on in the presentation.
There is one Q specific question here, asking whether bio-inspired strategies could be of interest for the Q topics, and this is definitely the case.
Good. I also saw here a question about the agenda, so I'm just pulling it up quickly before we continue. So now we will go into some of the details about the DUT call on a transnational level. So looking at the timeline, eligibility criteria, and the transnational rules, how to actually write the proposal template and submit it on the platform, and also what evaluation criteria that are used. We will also show you the matchmaking platform where you can find partners for your project. Then we will go on a break at 11:20 approximately and come back and then have the Q&A session. And to sum up a little bit before, 12, where we will have breakout rooms, 1 per country, where a funding agency representative from that country will be to give you a brief presentation and also answer questions regarding specific national or regional rules. All right, we have, maybe we can have 2 last answers from Christoph or Maxi.
Yeah, maybe one question I just wanted to take up. I already started writing it now in the Q&A tool, but there was a question on how we define a city or an urban area, as kind of this can be a little bit different. To my knowledge, and also please others correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't use a formal definition of urban area or city. Kind of the projects need to have a contribution and a connection to an urban area, but we also at the same time have some projects that focus more on the suburban or something that goes even beyond that. We have however, we have a definition of what kind of which partners we expect in the projects. And then we talk about urban government authorities. So these can be local or regional governments, municipalities, city authorities, but also, for example, infrastructure and service providers in public hand. So just have to say, kind of there's no clear delimitation, but we obviously always look for contributions to the challenges of urban areas.
Thanks, Maxi. And Christoph?
Very quickly, one question was that might be also of a more general interest regarding the pet topics. The question was if a district can also have a focus on business parks, industrial areas. In general, we focus on kind of working with people, residents also, and transforming existing urban structures. I think especially with the focus of this call, I think integrating also a focus on business parks or industrial areas into a systemic perspective absolutely would make sense. But yeah, I think we can come back to that bilaterally also. But yes, I think that could be a focus in this call as well.
All right, thank you, Christoph. I also noticed that somebody else have their hand raised. Let's save that question towards the longer Q&A session, and we will continue with the meeting. Now, I would like to hand over to my colleague Nicola to go through some of the general aspects of the DUT call.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. So hello, everyone. So I'm Nicolas Paulien, working at ANR, so the French National Research Agency, and we are part of the call secretariat. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to talk for a while here, so I hope you have a cup of coffee or tea, because I'm going to introduce to you some general aspect of the call, so the timelines, the rules, how to apply, but also some tips on the pre-proposal form. So next slide, please. So first of all, you can find all the info regarding the DUT call on the website. You can just go to the funding opportunities page and the DUT call 2024. In there, you have everything needed. You have the call text, which is, we strongly suggest you to take a look with it if you didn't do it yet. You can find other things like the timeline, and you can also go to the other DUT call 2023 and 2022 if you want to have some information about the previous projects that were funded. Next slide, please. So about the timeline, the call 2024 already open last week, the 2nd of November, and it will be open until the 14th of November. So here it will be open until 1 p.m. It's very important, the timeline, because all projects submitted after the deadline won't be accepted. So you need to be careful with that. After the stage 1, after the 14th of November, we will go through a round of eligibility check, so at the national and transnational level. And then we will have all the evaluation and selection process. All the pre-proposal will be informed if they were invited or not to stage 2, and the stage 2 will start at the end of February and will last until the end of April. So the deadline for the full proposal is the 24th of April. So to submit the full proposal is the 24th of April. And then once again, we will go through a round of evaluation, national and transnational check. The decision will be done in the next July 2025. So you will be informed in 2025, and we expect a beginning of the project by the end of 2025, so between September 2025 and January 2026, and there will be a kickoff event for this call in somewhere in 2026, but it will be communicated in due time. Next slide, please. So here is a list of participating countries. So as Jennifer said it in introduction, there are 28 countries that are participating to the call. We have some newcomer at this call. So for example, we have basically we have some evolution here because the first call in 2022 was mainly with European countries, and last year we start to be a bit more international with South Korea joining the call, and this year we have, for example, so we have Brazil. Normally we have Japan, we have UK, we have Taiwan. So it's a bit more international. It means that you as an applicant, you can build your consortium with other applicants from these countries. They are so applicants from Japan, from Taiwan, from Korea are eligible for funding from their funding agencies. But there is some specific rules, transnational rules that I will come back a bit later on it to explain clearly what you need to, where you need to be care when building your consortium. Next slide, please.
Yes, we see that some people are not seeing the slides. Is this the case? Okay, no, somebody can see the slides, so maybe it's a local matter. All right, go ahead, Nicholas. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So some important notes that we would like to tell you is the fact that, first of all, be careful because not every funding agency are covering all the topics, all the pathways and all the subtopics of the pathway. It's sometimes an agency will cover only one pathway or two pathway, and in this pathway may cover only one or two subtopics. So it's very important for you to take care with the call text, with the annex of the call text. You have table 1 and table 2 of Annex A, where you have all the information regarding which funding agencies is covering which pathway, which topic, but also the budget, which can give you an information on when you are building your project, your proposal, until where you can go, you can ask with your national funding agency. So you also have in the annex the national contact point of each funding agency. So we strongly suggest you to contact your national contact points. Next slide, please. So like I said, while we were talking about the timeline, so this call is a two-stage application. So currently we are at the pre-proposal stage where we ask you to submit. So the pre-proposal is quite short. We ask you to not provide too many detail. For those who already took a look with the pre-proposal form, there is for most of the section we have a page limit. So it's important that you follow the page limit. You will have much more space at the stage 2, which is the full proposal. You will have much more space, and there will be much more section. What we ask you here at the pre-proposal is to go kind of straight to the point and to be more concrete. So you will have to submit your pre-proposal and your full proposal on the transnational platform, which is a UDI manager, and we will give you more detail a bit later during this presentation. It's also important that you check with your national and regional agencies that if it's needed to submit at a national level, some funding agency require a national submission in parallel of the transnational submission. If you don't do so, you won't be eligible for funding. So it's very important that you are aware of that and to ask to be sure. So normally it's indicated in the annex of each funding agencies, but you can also contact the person if you have some doubts. Next slide, please. So the different type of applicants that can apply to the call. So it's it's quite large actually. So of course we can have some the research organization, we can have companies, we can have cultural and creative sectors, consumers and civil society representatives, and urban government authorities. Here I would like to insist on the urban government authorities. It's mandatory to have at least one in each project. If you do not have any urban government authorities, so it means a city, a municipality, a collectivity, if you do not have so, your project won't be eligible at the transnational level. It's important here to be aware as well of the national rules. Some I repeat myself a lot here, but we lost a lot of projects on the way while we were doing the eligibility check because a lot of applicants do not follow or do not respect the national rules, which lead to make them ineligible and the project turn ineligible at a transnational after. So it's very important that you check everything at a national level. Next slide, please. So we have some different roles in the consortium. So we have three main roles. First of all, we have the main applicant and the co-applicants that are applying for funding to the national agencies. So of course, the main applicant is the one. So here is the level of the organization. The main applicant is the one that will be responsible for everything. It will be the main contact point with the co-secretariat. And then we have the co-applicants that are the other applicants requiring for funding. You can also participate as a cooperation partner. So here is a bit different because a cooperation partner are the partners that do not ask for funding. So they either because they are not eligible, either because they just prefer to participate with their own funds. It means here that you will have to provide still a letter of interest that the applicant do not have to provide, but it will be mandatory at some point for the cooperation partner. So everything is also indicated in the call text and on the DUT website. You can check the FAQ if you want to have more info as well. Well, here we have these three different type of roles, and then we have the PI. I'm not going to describe what is a PI, but there is one specific rules here for the PI, and I will come back a bit later on it with criteria, transnational criteria. Next slide, please. So what can be applied for in this call 2024? So we expect holistic, inclusive, first and interdisciplinary, impactful, transnational and urban projects that focus on urban areas. Of course, that demonstrate transdisciplinary because this is one of the major points of the call is interdisciplinary. Also, it's important, I would say, I'm going to highlight here that the added value of the transnational cooperation, but also it's important to build on existing knowledge and to include a powerful communication dissemination strategy. So here it's this is things that we can also find in the, for example, it's important because the expert panel that will evaluate the project will mainly based on this different criteria. We'll go back a bit later, a bit more detail on the criteria, but it's important that well, you know what we expect for this call. But you can also here is very shortly explained, but you can go to the call text in chapter 2.1 and 2.3 if you want to have more detail, if you want to go more in depth with what is expected. Next slide, please. So about the research and innovation activities. So we have two types of approach in this call in DUT. We have the research approach and the innovation approach. So on one side, we will have more the strategic and applied research, and on the other side, we will have the concrete innovation project. So you will have to choose one main approach when you will fill the pre-proposal form, but it doesn't mean that you cannot mix both approach. You can have project with research and innovation approach. The only thing is we ask you to choose one main approach. You can have some partners that are doing research, some other partners that are doing innovation within a project, but it's important to have one main approach because it will determine what you will be evaluated during the evaluation process and the expert that will evaluate you. So because we'll have different kind of experts, namely we'll have research and innovation experts. So it's very important already at this moment that you choose a good approach, especially that you cannot change if your project is invited to stage 2, you cannot change the approach between two stages. So we ask you here to really take care of the approach that you choose. And it goes the same way for the transition pathway as well. Next slide, please. So here is an example of the transnational and the national rules. So it's fictional. We just create some fake rules per country, but it's just to illustrate the fact that we have transnational criteria, but we also have national criteria for each funding guarantees that may be more restrictive than the transnational criteria. For example, the country A is required to include at least a company. So if there is no company in the consortium, the applicant from the country A won't be eligible. Same for country B. So the agency from country B is requiring 2 municipalities in the consortium. So if there is, for example, only 1 municipality in the consortium, it means that the applicant won't be eligible for funding in this country. And then it goes the same for all the countries. So it's important that you check the national criteria of your country, because at some point it may be more restrictive. For example, the country D, so there is this rule of the PI so the transnational criteria of DUT is you cannot be more than 2 times PI as a co-applicant. And the country D here, for example, is requiring for the PI who apply to not be PI more than 1 time. So if this PI is in more than 1 project, it won't be eligible for funding. So it could be a bit tricky, because the more you have partner, the more you have eligibility rules at a national level. In any case, you can still go back to the criteria when you are building your project. Of course, we are here to answer your question during the process when you are when you are trying to build your project. And next slide, please. So here we go on the transnational eligibility criteria. So we have 9. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Perhaps I would like to spend some minutes on the first one, which is perhaps the most important, because this is where we lost so many projects in the previous calls. Is to respect this rules of having 3 independent legal entities applying for funding from 3 different countries. And in these 3 different countries, we need to have at least 2 from EU member states or associated countries eligible for European Commission co-funding. What does it mean? I'm going to say some concrete example. So for example, we have the first consortium, we have 3 countries. We have France, Italy, and Spain. So the consortium is eligible at the transnational level. So here we consider that the applicants are all independent, of course. So we have this consortium with France, Italy, and Spain. The consortium is eligible because the 3 countries are participating to the call and are EU member states. Another example, we have France, Italy, and Japan. So here the consortium is also eligible at the transnational level because we have France and Italy as member states. Japan is participating to the call, but we only need 2 applicants from EU member states, France and Italy. So the consortium is working. Third example, we have a consortium with France, Brazil, and Japan. So here, the consortium won't be eligible at a transnational level because we only have France as a EU member state, even if Brazil and Japan are participating to the call. So it means that you need, in this case, as it stayed, your project won't be eligible. So you need to add one more applicant from a country, from a EU member country. So if you add Italy, for example, France, Italy, Japan, Brazil, then your consortium will be eligible. So it may be a bit complicated, but well, you can ask if you're not sure. Again, when you build your consortium, you can ask the consortium. You can check with your identity as well if everything is okay. I think here the most important is really to check that you have at least two applicants from a EU member state, and this is where we lost a lot of projects in the previous calls. So be careful with that. The second transnational criteria is the fact that if the main applicant is not eligible, the project won't be eligible. Even if all the co-applicants are eligible, if the main applicant is not, the project will still remain not eligible at a transnational level. The third one is, as I said, as a PI, you can be in a maximum of 2 proposals. We will check that. So if you are in more than 2 proposals, you won't be eligible. So you can be PI as a main applicant, for main applicant 1 time and 1 time as a co-applicant or 2 times as a co-applicant. But you cannot be PI for 3 times or 2 times as a main applicant. Fourth criteria is the fact that, like I said, it's mandatory to involve a non-government authority. It can be involved as a main applicant or co-applicant, so asking for funding, or it can be as a cooperation partner, which means that they will participate in fund, but in this case, they will have to provide the letter of interest to really explain the role in the consortium and what they will do. Fifth one is the duration of the project, which must not exceed 36 months. So sometimes we see some projects that have that a bit shorter, like 30 months, but usually we have projects lasting 36 months. It's a bit complicated to do less, to be honest, but it cannot be more than 36 months. Next slide, please. About the pre-proposal and the full proposal. So of course it must be written in English, but not in your national language. It has to be really to be here. The Secretariat is going to be very strict. So you need to follow the rules indicated within the pre-proposal. You need to stick with the font, with the size, and with the limit of page of each section. If there is no limit of page indicated, it means the section is not counting in the page limit. But here it's very important to follow this because we are going to be, the Secretariat is going to be very strict on that. And if you go over the page limit, your project won't be eligible. Seventh one is the fact that, like I said, your pre-proposals and full proposal will have to be submitted on the Romanian platform, so on the UDI manager. Of course, please do so before the deadline, because if you do it the 14th of November at 1:01 p.m., it won't be eligible. Obviously, only the pre-proposal invited to submit a full proposal will be eligible. If your pre-proposal was not invited to stage 2, but you are still submitting a full proposal, logically it won't be eligible. And then ninth one, which is important, is fundamental changes between the pre-proposal and the full proposal won't be accepted if you, as an applicant, you initiated on your own. It means that it's important to precise here that if there is any change, please inform your funding agency first, and then the call secretariat, because like this you can exchange a discussion and we can find a solution together. But do not do it on your own. You need to inform at this stage, between the first and the second stage, you need to inform us. The fundamental changes could be, for example, if the PI of the main applicant for some reason need to be removed and need to be replaced by someone else. This is typically the case that we face, a co-applicant or a main applicant that need to be removed and need to be replaced. So yes, please inform your funding agencies. That will inform us as well. But otherwise, if there is any change that we found out without being informed, it will be your project won't be eligible. And then once again, your national may be more restrictive national rules. So like I said just before, so please check with your national funding agencies. Next slide, please. So here, I'm not going to repeat myself, but this is the national and regional eligibility condition. So you need to check the type of eligible partners. If you are, for example, a company or a city, your national agency may not found your type of partner. So it means that the only way you can participate in a consortium is as a cooperation partner. Please check as well if your national funding agency is covering your children pathway and your subtopic that you choose for your project. And of course, the submission, if it's expected or not on the national platform. So again, one last time, please check your Annex A. I repeat myself a lot in this presentation, but check Annex A to be sure that you are following the rules and you won't have any trouble, at least at a national level. Please, next slide. So here is another example, very shortly, about indeed the relation between the funding agencies and the funded project. So you can see that the funding agency will only fund their national applicant. So for example, the French agency is going to fund only the French applicant. French agency won't fund the German applicant, and it goes the same for all the funding agency. So it's very important if you are, for example, I don't know, if you are a French applicant and you are not eligible for French fundings, you cannot go to ask to another funding agencies. It means that the only way for you to participate is as a cooperation partner. And of course, each funding agency will be related to the applicant regarding the grant agreement, the reporting, and the payment. So this is how the project consortium is built. And of course, some funding agencies can fund multiple partners within the same consortium. Next slide, please. I think it was the last slide for the main, I would say, the main rules and the main modalities of the call. It gives you a first level of information, but we strongly suggest you to go to the website to go more in depth, and through the process, you can contact us again if you have any specific question. So regarding the pre-proposal template, so the proposal template is already on the DUT website in the Call 2024 page. So here I would like to notice that we are going to upload a new version because there is some problem with the actual version of the pre-proposal. I see some question in the Q&A tool. Just to answer this question, we are going to upload a new version. I think there is a problem with the subtopic. So if you already start to do your to fill, you will have to do it again. So it's just a note. Sorry for that. Some problem occurs during the upload. So what I said it already before in the presentation. So please, you have to follow some rules when you are filling the pre-proposal, and it goes the same for the full proposal. So you have to respect the formatting requirements, so the font size, the line spacing. Do not remove any parts. So for example, for the project overview, section 1, do not remove. Please tick, even if you do not tick all the subtopics, which will be the case, do not remove them. The goal here, you won't earn any space because most of the section have a page limit. So let it as it is, because we would like to provide the same level of information to the expert panel from every project. So of course, do not go over the page limit. Most of the section actually have a page limit. It's important to not go over, because otherwise your project won't be eligible. The detailed information, so you will have to fill the full proposal, the pre-proposal form, but also on the UDI manager. When you will register in the platform, you will have as well to provide information. And for example, the consortium, you will have to, on the DM manager, it will be explained a bit later, but you will have to provide as well the detailed information, the detailed financial information. And then last but not least, the section 7 in the form concerns the references. Here the goal is to not overload the text with your references, so you can just put them in this section. So one subsection is related to the references from the consortium, and the other one is related to the reference from the state of the art. So you can stick to that, and if you stick to that, normally you won't have any trouble during the eligibility check. And next slide, please. So I think this is, so here is some tips. So regarding the project overview, so like I said, it will have to be filled as well in the UDI manager. So regarding the approach, please only tick one. You will have to tick either the research or the innovation approach. Same goes for the transition pathway. Please tick one. You will have the possibility of the UDI manager for the transition pathway to indicate a secondary and even the third one if it's covering all the transition pathway. You will have also the possibility to tick the topics, but here do only for the main transition pathway, and for the subtopics you can do it for the secondary subtopics. And for the section 3, so here the project consortium, you have basically no limit because it only depends on the size of the consortium. Either you have a consortium of 3 partners or a consortium of 30 partners. The only thing we ask you is to inform to fill the contact person is the PI of the main applicant organization. It would be more practical for the course secretariat to contact you because you will be the main contact point. It makes sense, but sometimes it's not always the main applicant. So please just indicate the main applicant here. And next slide. So thank you. So regarding the evaluation and the selection process, so here we have some information to provide you. So like we said, it's a 2-stage process. I told you it's important to wisely choose the approach, either the research, either the innovation, as well as the transition pathway. Why? Simply because we are going to have a different ranking list. In total, we are going to have 6 ranking lists established by the expert panel, and we will have 2 ranking lists per transition pathway, depending on the approach. So we are going to have Q and research, Q and innovation, and etc. for the 2 other, same for the 2 other pathway. It means that if your project is a research and a Q, if you indicate it as it is, it will be, for example, evaluate in the Q and research pathway. So it's important that you choose already. It will be evaluated by research experts in this case. So it's important that you choose wisely and that you are sure your approach is a good one. You already faced some projects that were not in the good transition pathway and not in the good approach. And of course, it was not good for the project. And there is no possibility to change between stage 1 and stage 2. So wisely choose this aspect of your project when you build it. And so about the evaluation and the selection process, like I said, we are going to have the expert panel. So it's between 50 and 60 experts at both stages. So it's an international and independent expert panel. The goal here is not to have too many experts from only one country, but is to be as diverse as possible, and also to have a gender diversity as equal as possible. And well, the goal here is, of course, the expert panel will assess your project and will establish ranking list, and this ranking list will be used by the funding agencies as a recommendation for funding. So it will be done. It takes usually 1.5 months for the expert to something like that to evaluate your project, and you will be informed for the stage 1 in February. Next slide, please. So we have the expert panel will use 3 main criteria with sub-criteria for each of these 3 main criteria. So we have the excellence and intellectual merit, we have the impact and user engagement, and we have the quality and efficiency of product implementation. So here are criteria that are used by the European Commission. So it's not criteria that we created just for the DUT. I guess you know it already. If you already submitted project in other partnership or European call. So there is no criteria more important than another. every criteria will be scored between 0 and 5, which led the project to score the project on a total of 15. The particularity here is that we will find some sub-criteria specifically concerning the approach. So next slide, please. I will give you an example with the first criteria on excellence and actual merit. So here, this criteria will be the expert will take a look with the clarity and pertinence of the objectives, the credibility of the proposed approach and soundness of the concept, and the added value of transnational cooperation. The sub-criteria with an asterisk, with a little star, won't be considered, won't be used at stage 1, but will only be used as stage 2. And then we have the sub-criteria, as I said, depending on the approach. So we have here, we have for the research approach, the sub-criteria will be based on the originality, the contribution to new strategic knowledge, progress beyond the state of the art. And for the innovation approach, it will be on the innovativeness of the approach compared to existing solution. Next slide, please. So the second criteria is on the impact and user engagement, and it will be related to the relevance to the call topics, the integration of diversity and gender perspective in the project plan. So here I saw a question in the Q&A tool a bit earlier before my presentation. So we do not, it's not mandatory to have a 50-50 repartition. However, we strongly recommend to consider this in your project. The expert will take a look with it. There is no obligation to do a 50% and a 50-50, but you have to consider strongly this when building your consortium. There is also the engagement of stakeholders, which means that so the communities, the cities, what is the role? Is it pertinent regarding the goals of your project? And then we have sub-criteria that I won't say here because it's only for will only be used for stage 2. And then next slide, please. The last criteria. So here we have a lot of sub-criteria, and actually half of them will only be used at stage 2. But here the sub-criteria, the quality and efficiency of project implementation, will be related to the composition of your consortium. So the quality of a consortium is a good mix between young searcher and experienced searcher, the expertise of your consortium, and if there is a complementarity and a good contribution of the partners into the consortium. It will also take into account the timeline, if it's doable, if your project is pertinent regarding the timeline, and as well how the budget will be used and if the costs are realistic. And I won't spend more time here. You can find all these criteria as well in the context. And then my last slide. So it's just some statistics regarding the DUT Call 2023. So last year we had at stage 1 we had 150 eligible pre-proposals that were assessed by the expert panel. Here, just a precision is at very first we had 183 pre-proposals that were submitted, but 33 pre-proposals were not eligible after the eligibility check because of everything I said before, the different national and transnational criteria. 33 projects that were not eligible is a lot. We lost a lot of projects only for the DUT Call 2023. So this is why I insisted on the national and transnational criteria to really follow the rules. So on this 150 eligible proposals, 69 were invited to submit a full proposal at stage 2. So we had more than 70 experts, stage 1 and at both stage, indeed, that evaluated the project. And in total, on the 69 full proposal, 42 was suggested. So we have 42 projects that were funded. So you can see that it's quite high between the 69 eligible full proposal and the 42. And you can have also shortly a table quickly to show you the repartition of the project. So we have more projects in the 15-minute city pathway, and then followed by the paid and the queue. And you can see, I think what is quite important here is the fact the repartition between, especially between the research and the innovation. We have much more projects in the research approach than in the innovation approach. So here is maybe something like you can check while you build your consortium. There is some space in the innovation approach. Just saying. And then on the right you have some. You can have this project, 2023 project. You can also find them in the DUT website. On the page, you can find all the info needed. It can also give you some idea of what was done, even if the topics, subtopics are not exactly the same. It can still give you some idea of projects. And on the right, then it's all the necessary link to contact the call secretariat and to find all the info again about the call 2024. And I think I'm over. It was a bit long, sorry for that. But well, you can contact us, the call secretariat, at any moment afterwards.
Thank you, Nicholas. And yeah, we're running a little bit behind the time, but Elena, you're going to guide us through the submission platform. Please do this as briefly as you can. And as we mentioned before, we will make this recording available, also the PowerPoint slides, and some more detailed instructions on the submission platform as well. But go ahead, Elena.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you, Nicola. I'm Elena Simeon, working for the Research and Innovation Funding Agency in Romania with a funny acronym, UEFISCD. And I work together in the call secretariat with ANR, you've just heard Nicola, with MUR from Italy, and with the TACR from Czechia, under the overall coordination of FFG team, of course. For the submission system, if we can go to the next slide, you've heard a lot. So us in the Romanian funding agency, we are hosting the DUT calls. This is the third one. And just for you to know, you've heard a lot about the transnational eligibility criteria. What we planned to do and have it as a mission in our team is to make your work as smooth as possible. So the system will try to help you quite a lot with different validation functions while you submit the proposal to make your work easier. So if you don't have a UDI manager account, in case you haven't submitted before, you just create one following the steps on the screen. Make sure you have a valid email address, because that matters. You need some codes to confirm your account. And can we move to the next? And once you're in the system, you can see on the left menu in the submission system the call you need to submit to. So this is 2024 DUT call. It's easy. You will start with submit a proposal, and once you started it, make sure you save everything, because you can get back to it and you will get there just by pressing access my application. So that's an easy way. Oh, sorry. Can you please go to the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, I muted the participant, don't worry. So what's important with the UDI manager, we give access to insert data and to work with all the functionalities there only to the main applicant. So it is the responsibility of the main applicant to collect all necessary information from the partners in due time. And please try not to leave it for the last days to introduce the data in the system. You know, the system you will see is split in a few main sections. One of them is general information, it's financial information, upload documents, where you upload the pre-proposal or the full proposal template. And then the most useful for you is verify, finalize. Make sure you always press verify while filling in data, because the system will show you in due time that an address is missing, or I don't know, in the list of researchers, some name or email is not working, things like that. Next slide, please. In the general information, again, you will have a lot of things to fill in, but don't forget the transition pathway and the subtopic that you're applying for. And most importantly, as Nicola has mentioned, the type of project you are applying for. So is it a research-oriented approach or innovation-oriented approach? You will see anyway that the system will show you all these details. However, just make sure you follow the steps on the screen. So first, second, third, fourth. Next slide, please. We are more or less obliged to use the registration of partners by PICs. PICs, you will find it also in the system, can be obtained in a few minutes from the European Commission's platform, in case your partner doesn't have one. Starting with the second call and with this one too, we make registration of the partners by PICs, by PIC numbers, mandatory for all the partners, cooperation partners included too, so those who are not asking for funds. We need all this just to make sure we transfer all the data according to the European Commission rules to the European Commission servers. So PIC is relevant, insert it, you will get the data for the partner, and then of course you may continue filling in the other requested data. I think you can move to the next and the next one. Thank you. As said, the main applicant is submitting, right? So the main applicant is adding partners by PIC and makes sure that all data is in the system. What you need to know is that each time you add a partner, that partner will get an email to confirm the participation in the consortium. So the main applicant can send that email twice in case it hasn't been received or went to spam folder. But that's also visible to the main applicant in the system. You see the colors on the right. That means it has accepted, rejected, or it's pending in yellow. However, in case you have some problems, this won't really, how should I say, stop your submission. It is important, though, to have the confirmations in time, because this may matter at the eligibility phase. Next slide, please. Again, we said that we try to make the conversation with you quite easy, and also to help the projects reach out to new partners if case be. In the consortium, sorry, if in one country we have more partners, then the system requires to name one national contact point. So someone who's really like the first contact for us in the call secretariat or for the funding agencies, if in the eligibility phase more documents are needed. Another thing, and that's very important for you to know, in case a funding agency is undersubscribed, that means it doesn't have enough applications to consume the budget from the first phase, the pre-proposal phase. We do have the possibility to add partners from specific countries to the consortium. Therefore, we need you to make sure that you agree to publish your abstract for this future search of partners. So that's the case only for those invited to the second phase and to those who can have additional partners to the consortium. Next one, please. I think I can quickly get through this one too. Make sure that you find out if one of your partners is in the DUT city panel. That's an information that's new. It's added with this first call. And the point is to make sure that us in the call management have an idea on who's participating. This information won't go to the reviewers, won't have anything to affect or to do with the project's quality. And next slide. Another mandatory thing is the keywords in the system. You will need to choose from a drop-down list 3 mandatory keywords. These are fixed and they are coming from the European Commission again. So we need to have them here. And quickly to the budget, and I have another slide and I should be done. For the budget, it is important for you to make sure you introduce the right numbers here. And at the same time, to make sure if you are a partner that is asking for 100% funding from the funding agency, or if you are an SME, for an example, a contribution may be requested. Also, make sure that you apply for the right type of activity that is funding by a specific funding agency. So that means it's innovation, it may be applied research or fundamental research. Just make sure you tick all these options when you're putting in data. And don't worry, the calculations are done automatically. So that should also be reflected in the first screen of your proposal to cross-check the data. Next, and this should be final. Thank you. All right, this is it. Verify. Don't press finalize until you are done. But if you do by mistake, just come back to us and we will reopen the application for you. So good luck. We are looking forward to a lot of good and excellent pre-proposals and proposals. So on behalf of our co-secretariat, thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And before we go on a break, I would just like to mention the matchmaking platform. As Nicola mentioned earlier, we do require a transnational project consortia, and a great way of finding your project partners is to use the matchmaking platform. So the link should be in the chat. We can put it there again for you to find it easily. Register a profile here, but also register, you can do that on the bottom up to the right, register a project cooperation opportunity. This doesn't need to mean that you are having a finalized project idea. You can also register yourself as an expert profile in something. So you can indicate if you're a consortium looking for partners or if you are looking for a consortium to join. You can also scroll already. We have over 100 now. This is an old slide, but there's over 100 now. Great project opportunities in there. So take a look at this. There's also an opportunity for you to book meetings directly with other participants to discuss project ideas. They're called one-to-one meetings, but you can have multiple people in these meetings. So take the chance now during the break to go and check the matchmaking platform out. You can also spend some time writing questions in the Q&A function. Yeah, I already see that we've answered a lot of questions. There are still questions coming in, and we have our expert here to answer your questions. If there is any questions that you would like to answer out loud, just let me know. I can just comment in general, questions that regards a specific country's rules. We would direct to the breakout sessions at 1. But you can also find specific information in the Annex A in the call text, where you can see exactly what rules that funding agency have in terms of what research and investment activities they are funding, what types of actors, how much funding they are providing, etc. And when we talk about funding, I saw a question here, how much funding is available for each topic? That is a little bit hard to say because you can see exactly how much each funding agency are offering, but they could in turn finance different topics. And there's a question about the Q&A again. We will publish the whole Q&A with questions and answers, also the recording of this meeting and the PowerPoint slides on our website. Yeah, we have somebody raising their hand. I think we can also, while my colleagues are answering the questions, let you in and ask a question aloud if you would like.
Let me check. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I already posted this in the Q&A. I have a question based on the level of research quality. So I asked, does the expert panel also judge if you've basically done your homework before putting in a project proposal and looking at foreshadow problems as described in academic literature? Because we see a lot of communities of practice and community of innovative learners. And in our experience, we often find very similar questions addressed in different manners, leading up to a very slow uptake of core academic insights. Now, as impact entrepreneurs, we would like to do things differently, and we would also expect the DUT to qualify the proposal based on these merits. How does this process play out?
Again, Jennifer, I can answer this one. I would say that to answer your question, I try to be clear here. I think the most important is to have a good balance between experience applicants, experience searchers, but also from different stakeholders, but also to include some young searchers. The goal is not to have only very experienced, I would say, but the expert panel tend to, how would I say, tend to appreciate projects that have this good balance. Of course, I believe that in the innovation project you can find, you will have, it will be more concrete, so it will be project with more companies than research organization, but I think it's have to remain the same in this case for the innovation and the research approach with this balance of experience, I would say, if it's answering your question.
Yeah, I think we've gotten a few steps ahead. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. I will also encourage you to answer some of the questions live. Maybe more people are interested in hearing the answers to some of the questions, especially the upvoted ones. So feel free to also answer them out loud. I can take one to answer live here. Somebody has asked if Morocco can be partners or co-partners. As mentioned before, there are a certain number of countries participating in the call. It's 29 in the DUT call. Morocco is unfortunately not one of them for this call. But please have a look on our website and also in the call text, then you will find exactly what countries and funding agencies in that country that are participating in the call.
Jennifer, I just would like to answer one question in the chat. It's a it's a question regarding that. So I'm reading the question is, we understand that various countries are funding different topics under the 3 pathways. Our question is the funding entirely decentralized? In other words, if a specific topic is not funded by a country, can institution in that country still apply for other topics that are funded by agencies in other countries? So my answer is no. If your project is, let's say, it's on the queue, specifically on the queue topic 3, and if your funding agencies is not covering the queue topic 3, you cannot ask to a foreign agency. It means that the only way for you to participate in this project is to be as a cooperation partner, so to participate in your with your own funds. The only way here, the other way perhaps to participate is to add another subtopic in the project that can be covered by your funding agencies. In this way, you could require funding from your funding agency. But you cannot ask funding to another agency that's your national agency.
Thank you, Nicholas, for that answer. Just one other comment. We will have the national breakout sessions at 12. We had a question here on how to join them. At 12, we will open up breakout rooms. There will be 1 breakout room per country, and you choose yourself to join this breakout room in this country. And this will be the same for our funding agency representatives that are coming in. You have to go to this room yourselves. But that will happen at 12.
Hello?
Hello, Stefano, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. The first question is Canada eligible? The second question will be, we are working on microgrid using data, space data, and we are implementing the concept of federated, let's say, decentralized approach at the local level. Now, this means you can use in many sectors, in many of the 3 calls. Is this eligible in a way that you do some kind of a cross-sector approach? Thank you.
I can answer this one. So Canada this year is not participating to the call. It was last year, but is not this year. However, you can still Canadian can still participate to the project, but as a cooperation partner. So it means that they will participate on their own funds. Regarding your second question, I do not know if there is any pathway coordinators yet, but if you want to cross, we encourage to have cross topics. It's welcome. I see, Christophe, you put your camera on. I don't know if you want to answer here, perhaps.
Yeah, no, what you said, cross-cutting mining topics across the 3 transition pathways is very welcome, and what you just mentioned, I think would be a relevant issue. So yes, but again, it's always depending on national conditions, what topic is being funded. But in general, we're happy to see that. Yeah. Stefano, does that answer or somehow answer the question?
Yes, thank you very much. I think, yes, it's clear what, I mean, what we're going to submit as idea. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for Stefano and for Christophe and Nicholas on answering that. Also see a few things in the Q&A section of writing about your own project or what you're wishing to do. Please use the chat, but also the DUT matchmaking platform. You have the opportunity to explain there quite thoroughly what you're aiming to do and what you're looking for. So that's a great way also to reach out to potential project partners. So please go and make a profile there if you haven't done so already. All right, are we seeing any other questions that you would like to answer live from the Q&A function?
Jennifer, can I just jump in with a question? I had my hand raised before Stefan. Is that okay?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't see that. Go ahead, please.
No worries. So first and foremost, thanks so much for this very useful information, Ivan, and thanks to Call Secretariat and the coordinators, yourself and Nicholas. So in Nicholas' presentation, we gathered that any proposal should determine their orientation. Is it more of a research or innovation, which is fair. But also based on Nicholas' presentation, we realized that in the previous call, the number of projects accepted on the innovation-oriented ones were considerably lower than the research-oriented ones. So I was wondering if there is any inclination in this round to pay sort of more attention to the innovation-oriented ones, or the criteria are almost the same and you expect more research projects to be funded. A clarification would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, so to answer the question, actually, it's I think the goal of DUT is to be balanced. We expect to have more balanced repartition between the approach. It's true that the two previous calls we had much more research projects than innovation project, but we expect to rise a bit the level of the innovation project. So the explanation is a bit hard to provide here why we have more research project, and I'm not going to perhaps to extend here, but I think that's why I said during my presentation there is some room for applicants who would like to apply in the innovation approach, because much more projects are funded in the research. It doesn't mean that we have less budget for the innovation. It depends on the national rules again. There is some budget from the funding agency for the innovation approach. So we just miss actually innovation pre-proposal. So we expect, I think the simple answer is we expect more innovation pre-proposal this call. We would like to see more innovation pre-proposal.
Much appreciated. This is super helpful, Nicholas. And when you're talking about innovation, are you thinking more on conceptualization of innovation, supporting like policy making through innovative approaches, or more of a delivery of point projects on the ground through innovation?
I think the second option, but there is no. I wouldn't say there is a limit in the innovation in the TRR level. I think that it's especially because we do not have so many innovation projects so far. I think this is not so necessary to put a limit in the innovativeness level, I would say. So yeah, it's I think as much as if it's concrete and if it's bring innovative solution to the cities, and I think something project with bring concrete solution is what is more important. And after that, the level of innovativeness, well, it will be in the innovation approach. So I wouldn't say that there is a hard limit on the level of innovation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. This is really encouraging. I appreciate that.
All right, we see I have some more hand raised as well. We will continue to answer questions in the Q&A section in writing, but we can bring in Elena Calzado. You have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you very much. This is also to continue the discussion around the TRLs, because I agree, or I understood that we have to agree in the consortium about the if we go to a strategic, applied, or innovation. But the problem I saw in some countries, what they understand for applied or research or even innovation is different. So, for example, I saw that in Austria, applied research is from TRL2 to TRL4, pretty much different from other countries, meaning that, imagine, we agree, all of us, to go for applied research, but one country, the TRL is lower than the other country that maybe TRL is higher. Is this a problem? Because I see there is no commitment on the TRLs on this applied research approach, for example. So can we go all for applied and Austria go to TRL 3 and maybe Norway go to TRL 7? Is this consistent, or it will be a problem during the evaluation?
Well, I think here it's a bit, I would say is a bit risky. I think you need to go more in depth in the discussion with the Austrian agency, because it's a problem at the national level. We know that all the funding agencies do not have the same definition of the TRL level. So I would say, I don't know if you contact already the Austrian agencies, and while you are building your consortium, if you contacted already the contact point of the funding agencies of your consortium. But I think this is something you can talk with them. I cannot say anything for the Austrian agencies, but I would say it's first to deal with them how you can find a solution here. And if it's not possible, then it means that some partner will have to participate as cooperation partner of their own funds. And I know it's not the ideal solution, but well, this is, I would say, the last solution. But first of all, contact the national contact point of the Austrian agencies to discuss there, I would say.
Okay, so the conclusion is, at least a common TRL pathway should be agreed between the partners, so they are in the same category. If you are in research or in applied, at least looking for this common pathway. And if you are in applied, you can have both research-oriented approach and both innovation-oriented approach. And in that case, you can have partners in the research and the innovation, because the consortium is focusing on applied research, I guess, which is in the middle.
Well, yes, you can mix research and innovation within your project. It depends, of course, on the national rules again of the funding agencies. But the project is not necessarily only research or only innovation. You can have a mix of both. But after, you need to check at the national level if your agency is funding. First of all, let's say that your project is the main approach is innovation. But in this innovation project, you are going to do a bit of research approach, a bit of research. So you need to be sure that the agency, the partner, the applicant that will cover the research aspect will ask to an agency that is agreed to fund an innovation project. I don't know if I'm clear. This is important. So you need to see with. That's why to check at the national level is super important.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. We're running a little bit out of time here. So if you do have a question, I see 2 more hand raised. Please write your question in the Q&A instead. And our experts here will stay in the main room and answer to these questions, and they will be included in the Q&A document afterwards. We will just in 2 minutes go into the national breakout rooms. They will appear soon. Before doing so, I'm just showing here some important dates on the screen, and the next in line being that the deadline for the pre-proposal submission is 14th of November. So just an important date to keep in mind. Here are some useful links to our website. We have the DUT Call 2024 page, where you will find the pre-proposal template, which we, as Nicola mentioned, will update soon, but also the call text. And also the link to the DUT matchmaking platform. If you have any questions regarding the transnational part, you can always contact the call management at the email address here below. And for questions to your national contact point, I will take the opportunity to ask them now. But we do have some instances of countries that will not be here today, and then you will find their contact information to contact directly in the national annexes, Annex A in the call text. And we also have a few more information events directly from these national funding agencies. Some have already taken place, but you can also check on the DUT matchmaking platform for a few more that's coming up. But that's it from our side. Nicola, you had your hand raised there for a second. Would you like to add something?
Just to perhaps it's is already we already repeated so many times, but just to say that if we do not have time and it may be possible to answer all the questions in the Q&R tool, you can also already find the FAQ on the website, which answer a lot of questions. And perhaps, I don't know, let's see if we will add some new questions to this FAQ, but you will have an answer to all your questions in the DUT website.
Thank you, Nicholas. Maybe our tech support can open up the breakout rooms.